Hello and welcome back to Walk the Cinema podcast, where we walk the cinema so we can talk the cinema. Today is our final part of the Oscar highlights series. It's part of,
Hooray!
we will be discussing Trial of Chicago 7.
Yes, how enduring.
And why don't we start this off with a little brief synopsis?
I mean, the name says it all. It's 7 people in Chicago going to trial over their protests during a Democratic National Convention.
Yes, this takes place in Chicago in the late 1960s.
hmm
And it's a true story, or it's based on a true story.
Yeah.
And it had originally been called the Trial of the Chicago 8 because they had lumped in Bobby Seale, who was the national chairman of the Black Panther Party, in with the group, before he was eventually found as it was a mistrial. So then he got cut out of the.
Yeah. And we see that.
Yeah. But it's the main focus is the 7 individuals that were arrested previously or for the protesting, and that included Tom Hayden, who was the leader of the Students for the Democratic Society, Abby Hoffman, who was the founder of the Youth International Party, and Rennie Davis, who was the organizer in Chicago for the National Mobilization Committee to End the War in Vietnam. We had Jerry Rubin, who was another member of the Youth International Party. David Dillinger, Lee Weiner, I think. And John Foynes. I don't know if I'm saying those people's names right, but...
And then you had the fictionalized character, which was the prosecution attorney. This was Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yes.
Which was a really bad character to put in there, in my opinion.
Yes, and we had some other real people, like the defense attorney. He was a real person.
Yeah.
And some other people. And interestingly enough, Fred Hampton also makes an appearance in this. We saw him back in Judas and the Black Messiah, and he does make an appearance in here, but it is very, very brief.
Yeah. It's a couple scenes, I think.
Yeah. So I think the first opening shot of the movie, or the opening sequence in the movie, is them getting ready, all of them getting ready to go to Chicago, to go to this Democratic National Convention in Chicago. And it does that editing thing. I feel like I've seen it a lot, and I feel like it always works for me for some reason. I guess I'm basic, but it's where different characters finish each other's sentences in a way that's that makes sense, but is not what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
And I thought it was entertaining from the start,
So I think the movie's entertaining.
Yeah, I thought it was entertaining.
Oh, okay.
I liked the movie. I'll get that out right now. But I do see its flaws, and we'll talk about it. But
I guess I'm neutral on it.
I liked it. I know I'm really basic, but I liked it.
Yeah, to quote the top review on Letterboxd, Aaron Sorkin is way too good of a writer to be forced to work with such a mediocre director as Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah, the directing was a little bit iffy, I guess.
A little bit.
It's not, I don't think it's terrible, but I do think it's a little bit too on the nose, maybe?
He's not really a director. He's more of a writer. And he kind of wrote this for Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, I saw that.
But Steven Spielberg didn't get behind it. He wanted to do it with Heath Ledger and Will Smith, but Ledger died in the meantime, and it never got done.
Yeah, I think it just it was in kind of developmental purgatory,
Yeah.
Because this has been in the works for a while. And it's so interesting because, again, another thing that I wish I kind of learned about in school, and I feel like I didn't. I might have, like, very briefly, but I don't recall learning about it. And there's so many things that I just wish was talked about in school because this is like the stuff that's interesting, right? You know?
I mean, I don't find it very interesting. It's a little bit boring.
I find it so interesting.
I
It
don't think the
also,
movie helps.
I just think it like it gets me fired up about certain things because it's like,
I don't know for sure, but
I just, we'll continue to talk about it, but basically, like, part of it was they kind of, they think that their case is like a an example. They're being made an example for other people. And so, like, we see the judge that comes in and he immediately is like very aggressive,
yeah, it's a
very
very, it's what you'd expect. They villainize the judge. It's
it,
like everything you'd expect him to be, a huge asshole.
yeah. And I do think that,
No redeeming qualities whatsoever. I feel like that's a little bit, you know, cliched.
I mean, it might be cliched, but I think that it does kind of stick true to, at least in part, of like what actually happened because he really did, like, you know, say and do some of the things that were in the movie, you know? Like, for example, like Bobby Seale, kind of towards the middle of the movie, where to get him to shut up, the judge basically orders him to be like bound and restrained and put back on the back in like the back on trial. And that really happened, you know? So it's like, is
No,
it,
I'm not saying there was no abuse of power, but it is a movie and it is a character in the movie. And as a character, it's very one note.
I mean, I feel like in a lot of certain situations, unless you're getting like the full picture of like a person's life, like people are very one note, you know?
Mhm.
Like
I suppose
in this story, he is kind of the villain, you know? Like from
it's him and the cops.
yeah, from the perspective of the 7/8, he is a villain. He is like hyper aggressive and doesn't doesn't really like listen to reason, I guess. And I mean, even at the end, they were like talking about how the judge's name was Julius Hoffman, and how after the trial had happened, like people basically said he wasn't fit for, uh, you know, having that kind of power and that kind of trial and that kind of decision making. But then we kind of like move into like this I would say kind of like a second part of the movie where it kind of is more linear, I'd say up until about halfway, and then it kind of like takes you back to like the events that happened leading up to them being arrested.
Yeah, it's not very linear.
It I feel like it becomes linear and then it stops being linear. And then we see like them meeting people and like talking
Yeah,
about how all the police were basically like undercover. And I really like the one line where it's like they led a protest of like police against the police because there were so many
yeah.
undercover
Basically,
cops.
they were trying to be civilized, but all the people that were infiltrated basically turned them into a mob to attack the police.
Yeah, and I feel like some of it is like one of like the ending points was when they have like a video recording or an audio recording rather of Tom Hayden saying something like if blood is gonna flow, then let it flow all over the city.
Yeah,
And
yeah. They took
they
that out of.
yeah, it's out of context because in the context it was he saw like a kid being like the police going after this kid and then another participant like comes up and tries to like tell the police that he's just a kid and then like he gets injured and it starts bleeding out and stuff. So he says that, and then they're going to use it against him, saying that the riot was intent or they intended to start a riot, when in reality he just meant, if our blood is going to flow, let it flow all over the city.
Yeah, he basically was willing to sacrifice themselves
Yeah.
to show the brutality that the police is putting onto them, but the way the judge took it was a call for action to hurt the police, to make the police bleed and make their blood flow.
Yeah.
Just not what he meant. But the way he said it was very open-ended, so you can't, I don't know. I guess you couldn't be too upset if someone didn't understand it out of context.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but it's kind of like, it is kind of like, you have the evidence. You can't really like justify like, oh, well, I meant to say this.
Some of the other 7 even got mad at him for saying that because they knew out of context it sounded terrible.
Well, yeah, it does sound terrible.
Yeah.
I think that's not like a...
No.
I'm just saying that it's like, you know...
don't enlighten me.
I don't know. I just think that like... I totally agree that like you can't go on stand on trial and be like, oh, well, I meant to say this. It's like, well, we have you on video saying this, so, and then all of this violence happens, so you put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, but to further along our conversation, go back to Aaron Sorkin being mediocre. This movie is completely carried by the showcase that the actors put together. This has nothing to do with Aaron Sorkin, really.
I have conflicting feelings because I really do like the movie. And I realize how basic it is, because like,
it is basic. You can find movies like this going back years.
Yeah, well, as soon as I saw it, I was like, this to me is the people pleaser. It's on Netflix.
I agree.
It's pretty easy story to follow. It's about a kind of topical situation going on in America right now, using a historic event. People love learning about history and getting fired up.
Aaron Sorkin even said that the script feels very topical, but he didn't adapt it to modern times. Just modern times adapted to the script.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that he wasn't like trying to make a statement currently, because I mean, this has been in the works for years. I mean, it was probably...
I just can't believe it took him so long to write this.
Well, I don't think it took him long to write it. I think he had it written, and it was just kind of like...
Well, he had time to mull over it, though.
Well, yeah, but I mean, honestly, I don't think the script is that bad.
No, the script is... he has a dual role as the director and the writer. If anything, I would compliment him as the writer.
Yeah, I just think the directing's like not particularly like special in any type of way.
I think the actors carry it. There's no way around it.
I mean, the actors did good. I did like Sacha Baron Cohen as Abby Hoffman.
You just didn't like Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I really don't like Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I don't like his acting in particular, but I think the character was so tremendously terrible. You didn't need to put a white knight in there.
Yeah,
it really doesn't help at all.
It was such a white knight move, because it's like he's the prosecutor, so obviously he has to go after these people on some capacity, and then like he is like kind of a voice of reason for the prosecution.
Yeah, it kind of helps the prosecution at points.
Well, he helps the prosecution, but I'm saying he's like, oh, like Bobby Seale shouldn't be like in a courtroom bound and tied up, you know?
Yeah, he's not. It's not a very realistic defense attorney. It's just there to be, I don't know, I guess he's there to help the audience understand that we should be on this side 100%.
Yeah.
There's no way we should be against the 7. They're the heroes. And I don't know, I thought that was easy to understand without that character pointing it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think like his character was kind of unnecessary. Just like completely. I think you could get rid of his character and be like completely fine.
Yeah.
And especially.
But yeah, you were saying you like Sacha.
Yeah,
he got the nomination.
He did.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I think Eddie Redmayne, like, this is probably one of the worst roles I've seen him in.
Why is that?
I don't know. There's just something about it. Like he had like that. He had. I wouldn't say it's an accent, but he was trying to talk in a way to fit the character, I think, and it just wasn't working for me, like
Hmm.
at all.
He was the main
I
character in the
know.
movie, which I had a hard time understanding. Because he
I
is
mean,
Tom Hayden. I guess he's the main.
yeah, I mean, Tom Hayden's like the one, I guess, that they like
Yeah, but the
made.
movie didn't make that clear at all. Again,
I kind of thought it was clear.
that's on the director. So I didn't think that was very clear.
Well, who else would you have who else would you have thought was
I
the
mean, they gave Sacha Baron Cohen so much screen time, and I understand because he was the better actor. They did that probably in the editing room, but it just made it unclear who has the main role in
yeah.
it. Yeah, I don't
I
know.
feel like it's valid. And then also I don't know like I know that there have been movies made on this topic before because I kind of did some looking into it after we watched it. And I don't know how those compare to this, but also there's like those two people, which I forget which ones they are that are on trial, but it's like the only time we ever see them interact with the group or say any type of words is when they're explaining why each one of them has been brought to trial. And they're like, oh, these are the guys that didn't really do anything wrong. So the jury can find them innocent without feeling guilty about finding all the other ones guilty.
Yeah,
And then they kind of just like vanish, you know?
yeah.
Like they're never
There's
talked
so
about.
many problems with this movie. It's kind of ridiculous.
I mean, there's
It's not
problems.
a. I don't think it's the people pleaser. It's far too simple. It's far too straightforward. It feels like not. It doesn't feel amateur, but it does feel like it's a director that doesn't take any chances.
Yeah, no,
He's not trying to invent the wheel here. He's just trying to make a movie that's like movies that have been done before.
no, it definitely feels
It's
basic.
successful in that way, where it's a movie and it makes sense. It's coherent, but I
Yeah.
don't know. You're not going to learn anything from it in a movie making perspective. It's not pushing any boundaries. It just uses what he has. It's kind of boring in that way.
I see what you're saying. I just don't think I didn't find it very boring.
I didn't find the story boring.
I was entertained.
I think that the movie making is boring.
Yeah. And I did like at the end the where the judge is like, "Oh, Tom Hayden, you're the only one that has respect for the judicial system, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to make the final statement.
Oh yeah, that was a really good statement.
I'll be brief if I'll be brief or I'll be lenient on your sentencing if you make it brief and apologetic and stuff." And then he takes his statement and says all the soldiers whose names died while they were on trial.
Yeah, during the trial, he read the name and the ages of everyone that died in Vietnam.
Yeah. Because I mean that's kind of like one of the points.
That was very strong. That was a very strong ending, actually.
It was. And then it kind of, there's a little bit of a damper in it when, like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character is, like, the only one to, like, stand
Oh
on the
yeah,
prosecution side. And it's like,
yeah. But ignoring that, it's a
well,
very strong ending. I don't know how real that is. I hope it's real though, because
I don't know. That's, like, something I didn't come across when I was.
that's a statement. Like that was the perfect thing to do at that moment.
Yeah, for sure.
So you want to get to the nomination?
Yeah, let's get to the nominations. Obviously, Best Picture. We wouldn't be covering it otherwise. Supporting actor for Sacha Baron Cohen.
Deserved.
Original screenplay for Aaron Sorkin.
Mm-hmm.
Cinematography, original song, film editing.
Yeah, the editing. The editing again, it was fine.
Yeah, and I kind of immediately thought it was like as soon as we watched it, I was like, this is getting a nom for film editing just on the pure basis that it is what it is. Like that opening scene, I was like, okay,
it's very by the book editing.
Yeah. Cinematography.
I like the cinematography.
It's okay.
The riot scenes were good. The scenes outside of the courtroom were well staged. And the courtroom was, I don't know, I guess this gets into set design, but it was filmed in a way that it wasn't disorienting at all. You kind of knew where everything was. So it did its job. I'm not against the cinematography nomination here.
Mm.
I mean, it was always going to get the screenplay,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's very inspired.
Yeah. I honestly don't remember the song either, so we're gonna have to like go back and look at the songs before we like make our.
The only song I remember is the Life Ahead song. It's because it's only in Italian. It actually sounds good. I like that one.
Mm.
Yeah, the songs are not great this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was always going to get these nominations. There was a lot of people thinking that this was a strong contender for Best Picture.
Honestly, I think it kind of still is. I don't know.
We'll see next episode.
I did like my only
Plug.
thing that makes it seem like it may win or it has a chance at winning Best Picture is the fact that it won best or best ensemble cast, right?
Yeah, it won Best Ensemble
At the SAG Awards.
Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
Which that's their version of Best Picture.
Yeah.
But we'll see. This year is different from last year. It's been more interesting. We're actually going to go in blind.
Yeah, it's definitely more fun than it was last year, where you could kind of pick like. There's no way that any of the top like four the top acting categories were all locked, and like Best Picture was really only between two.
By the day of, yeah. I guess it was just between two.
And then, so what'd you give this as a final recap?
I give it a 6. It was a movie. It was done as a movie, and it was a movie. You know, like it wasn't special, but it definitely wasn't terribly done at all. It was done by professionals, just not in a artistic way. I guess it was a very mechanical way to make it, but it's still fine.
I gave it a 7 because I liked it a little bit more, and I think that.
I think you just wanted to say it's the Trial of Chicago 7 out of 10.
No.
I wouldn't come up with that.
No, but I think it's basic, but I liked it. So I feel like if I didn't like it, I probably would have given it a 6. But since I did like it and I would watch it again and I do enjoy it, I think it deserves a 7.
So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is the final episode that we're covering the movies, but the next one's going to be really fun. And we're just going to be talking about the nominations and who we think are going to win.
Yeah, so definitely stay tuned and maybe come up with your own predictions and see if they match our own.
Yeah, tell us what you think in the comments.
And we'll see you next time.